AJ, talk to us about tonight.
Debut, WWE, biggest wrestling company in the world, at the Royal Rumble. Sounds pretty awesome, right? The only thing that would have made that better is if I was the last one standing out there in that ring. Don't fret. I got a couple more years to be in the Royal Rumble. And it'll be different next time.
I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man.
Right here on the Spreaker Web Radio Network and at our website at WrestlingAudioRevolution.com. Check us out for hours and hours of past shows in the audio vault. It is growing by the day, by the week, and by the month. But without any further ado, the most important thing, we got a whole list of things we need to get to, but the most important, Sean Cunningham, how the hell are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Very good. Have things chilled out a little bit for you now that the holidays are over and you've got through the hustle and bustle?
Yeah, now we're slowing down. Everything's kind of nice and calm, and you can catch up on sleep and catch up on, binge watching television and those kind of things. Binge watching the network for some people.
Well, let's say this. Super shows rule.
They do.
It's always great to have the Three Musketeers. I'm talking about, of course, you, myself, and my big brother, Shotgun Shan. What up, Shotgun? How you doing out there? But you know what? We're going back to basics, back to the playground. War Weekly, and we are back on the air. We thank you so much for being here, and we'll be with you for just about the next hour, talking about all things in the world of professional wrestling. It's great having Shotgun here. We always get a lot of humor out of him. We always get a lot of positivity, right? He's like the New Day.
He is.
We always get a lot of insight, but, it does, when you have a third party, it does limit the intimacy time that you have with the audience. So I think we really do need to catch them up. And why don't you start, Sean, your New Year's Eve?
2016 was pretty basic. I liked it because it was, we stayed here at home, we ordered some sushi, which I can't seem to say right now, and had some alcoholic beverages, and that was our night, basically, and it was pretty good.
You guys just stayed in?
Yeah, we just stayed in. We should give a free plug to Daily Sushi on Carlton because they do really good sushi really fast, and that's what you want on both counts.
So if you're in the Toronto area, what's that name again?
Daily Sushi on Carlton.
On Carlton Street. So that's for everybody in the GTA. Check them out. Sean Cunningham approved.
Yes.
And myself, it's a little awkward to say because I think you might be a little mad at me, but at the same time, once I explain, I think you'll understand a little bit. And I'll let the listeners in on this as well. I was in Toronto for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day this year. I did not call you.
No, you didn't.
I did not give you any heads up that I would be coming. I had a little bit of notice, maybe a week or so that's definitely no excuse. We stayed at the Delta Chelsea with the intent of going down to Nathan Phillips Square. My wife wanted to go and check out the whole festivities there, the thousands and thousands of people that go
almost
and gather.
Millions.
It's a tradition here in Toronto.
It is.
Personally, for myself, I think I'm a little old for that.
Agreed. I am too. So.
Well, at least from what you see on TV, it seems to be a pretty teeny bopper crowd.
Yeah.
You might get a Sean Desmond performance,
Yeah, that's accurate.
Back in the day, anyway.
Yep.
What I was going to tell you is, I stayed at the Delta Chelsea. We got there. We had our dinner right there at a little pub right on the corner. The Elephant and the, what's it called?
Oh, the Elephant Castle.
There you go. Elephant in the Castle. So we'll give them a free plug as well if you're in the Toronto area. You can eat where Sean Cunningham and Luke Force eat.
There you go. That's what you want to do.
So we're at the hotel. We had just finished dinner. We thought, let's just have a little lay down, watch a little bit of Big Bang Theory for an hour or so, and maybe even catch a little doze. And then we'll get up because it was only early. It was only like 9 at night.
Okay.
Let's sleep for an hour or watch some TV for an hour and just be in our humongous bed in this Delta Chelsea hotel room. And then we'll go and we'll check out the festivities. Needless to say, we did not make it to the festivities. We paid $300 and something Canadian in this economy to go up to the city. We live just about an hour outside of the city, so we had to take the GO train and do all that stuff and the gas money. And we went up there, we're in our hotel room, fell asleep after about an hour, and woke up the next day. That was our New Year's Eve.
I hate to laugh, man, but that's pretty funny. I do feel bad about the hotel room price on New Year's Eve, though, because that does kind of suck.
It's okay to let out a
yeah, really, a Nelson Muntz style.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right to do that because
you know what? Did you enjoy the time with your wife? Because you work a lot, she works a lot, so at least you got to spend New Year's together. So that to me is the important part of it.
Well, we got that real good hotel sleep as well.
Oh, see, that's good too.
When you're in that humongous, big, comfortable. At least I did. I snore, so I can't say the same for my wife. But I sure did get a nice, 7-8 hours of hotel sleep, which is just unparalleled.
It is.
But then we got up early in the morning and we went swimming. So at least we got that, we did that.
Did something, there you go.
And then we went and got some nice breakfast somewhere. And then I said, hey, wife, I didn't say hey, wife, but I said, hey, woman, you want to go and watch a movie or do something else before we head home? And she just was like, nah, I'm good. Let's go home. So we went home by about 11 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
So we got there around, say, 7 or 8 and headed out, by 11 the next morning and did absolutely nothing other than sleep and eat.
Well, that's not the worst thing in the world to do.
And swim. I guess we got to go
That's pretty
swim.
good, though.
A $300 and something swim. So, anyway.
That you've now shared with the masses. So.
Not to sound bitter, because you know what? We needed it, and I guess at this time, it's probably, I would say we're far enough along now to tell you that my wife is pregnant with our first child. I believe it will be July the 14th is the due date.
Okay.
So, yeah, there will be a new member of the Wrestling Audio Revolution family.
Literally.
So, yeah, we're going to have to start talking about, maybe this should be cut out of the show, but, we're going to have to start talking about the future of this show. So I might have to take a little bit of a sabbatical.
Yeah.
But unlike CM Punk, I'm not just going to storm out of here.
No, of course not.
Unless Raw gets really bad, then I might just say, fuck it, I quit.
Well, but you know how much other stuff there is right now to transition?
Why don't we get into it, Sean? Because, the Royal Rumble,
yes.
We were previewing that show on Super Show 9, which we did last week. We had our predictions. You were right on the money with yours in terms of the winner. And I really did enjoy the undercard a lot, first of all. Starting with that opener. Do we want to get into the opener?
Those two guys clearly know how to work together, referring to Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, definitely the highlight of the show, I would say, the show stealer.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
And they went out there. It was almost like you almost had to question the booking of that show and the way that they, put the card together. Because there was nobody that was going to be following that. And they had some really good stuff on that undercard, I thought. I didn't think there was one bad match on this show.
No, there really wasn't.
But at the same time, nobody was going to be following that opener. So it kind of made everything else after that seem worse than it was, you could say.
Kind of wah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, New Day and Usos I thought was really good too. The weird part of that, and I don't know if you noticed this, there was a point where the Usos came really, really close to winning, and that crowd in Orlando turned on them.
This is the risk that I think they're running into with the New Day. I just think it's starting to screw up everything.
It is.
Especially, it's one thing if you have the freedom to go out there and play heel if the crowd turns on you. These guys don't have that freedom. You know what I mean? You're out there just getting crucified, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And there's the New Day, and they're entertaining, and they're charismatic, and they're funny, and they're colorful. What about this am I supposed to hate?
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a trumpet. He's making me laugh.
Or no, the biggest pop before the match sort of was Xavier bringing, Francesca 2 is the name of the trombone.
Francesca 2.
Yes.
And I heard people bitch it and say that was totally uncreative. I thought it was hilarious.
That's hilarious.
All I could think about was The Simpsons and Snowball 2 or whatever. That's what I thought of, and I thought that was damn funny.
That's hilarious. Come on. Get a sense of humor, people, if you didn't like that.
Yeah, get a sense of humor. And I think that these guys are super talented, super over, but it is screwing up these matches with guys like the Usos who are nowhere near as over.
No.
And they can't do anything during the match to sort of get themselves over or get heel heat because that's going to screw up what some writers come up with or the overall plan and direction.
Well, that's why you notice that no other tag team on the roster right now gets to say anything.
Right. But, let's face it. The New Day has zero heel heat.
No, I know. It's all like, yay, haha, you're funny. And
exactly. So it's time to just embrace it They can still be insulting people. They can still be cocky or whatever they want to be to quote-unquote be heels. But, I mean, let's just face facts that these guys are a babyface team, and if the Usos are going to be the team that's in there with them, we need to turn the Usos heel.
Yeah, 100%.
You know? I totally... There's certain situations where the shades of gray really does work. New Japan does it better than anybody, where they have characters like Seiya Nakamura, who we'll talk about in just a few minutes, or Okada, or certain guys that are... They have heel and babyface tendencies, and you don't always necessarily know what they're supposed to be. But at the same time, you know that they're super over, and it's not screwing up the dynamic of a match. No. Whereas the New Day is, in my opinion. So,
well, it's not. I don't even blame the New Day. We talked about this on the previous show too. We talked about the idea of the WWE traveling crowd. The traveling crowd is at Royal Rumble almost as big as WrestleMania. Nothing is bigger than the WrestleMania traveling crowd. But the Royal Rumble crowd travel, and they like what they like, and they don't like what they don't like, and they will tell you about it.
They did not like Roman Reigns.
No.
Other things on the card, Del Rio and Kalisto. What I'll say about that, and I think you would probably agree, the matches have all been good. Everything about them in the ring is awesome. You know, everything they've done has been great. With that said, the booking is just completely making my head spin. I have no idea. It seems as though now they're going with Kalisto. He did retain the title here, or he did win the title back, should I say, from Alberto after Alberto had it the second time. How long did he had it?
A week.
A week. And Kalisto had it a day before that.
Yes.
So I don't think they necessarily know what they're doing there.
No.
But, you know, from this week's television, it looks like Kalisto's going to be the guy. He's now moving on, and he did defend the title against Neville, which was a pretty damn awesome match, actually,
yes,
on SmackDown.
It was. Oh, my God.
You did see SmackDown.
I have seen it, and it's like I have to pick my teeth up, and I'll have to go back and watch it again, because I'm sure there's something I missed.
Right. Charlotte and Becky... They had a really strong match.
Yeah.
And I like both girls in the ring a lot. Charlotte seems to be really more comfortable in the role that she's in right now. Becky is a great baby face. Charlotte getting the win.
The finish of that was Flair throwing his jacket on top of Becky's head while Charlotte was in the submission hold.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, Flair had tried to make out with Becky. This was really more about Rick than it was about Charlotte near the end of that match.
But again, another strong match. Pretty much a strong card top to bottom, in my opinion. And then we get to the Royal Rumble. Before we get into our thoughts and our feelings on this one, I am going to read a quote from Bret the Hitman Hart.
Okay.
Who gives zero fucks at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't care anymore.
And I love it. I just love Bret Hart in 2016. You know, the way that he's been over the last few years. He's awesome. He comes out there and he says exactly what he feels and doesn't worry about the consequences because he knows Vince will kiss his ass no matter what, keep inviting him back as a guest. And it doesn't matter what he says about Hunter. It doesn't matter what he says about Creative. He's in. So this is a quote from Bret Hart regarding the Royal Rumble match. He was on WrestleZone Radio this past, I believe it was Tuesday. So check them out, WrestleZone Radio. And this was a quote. I wasn't that impressed with the Rumble match. I thought it was one of the least exciting ones I've ever watched. I just didn't find it very interesting. I found it very predictable. When all of the guys came out and ganged up on Roman Reigns, I knew that he was going to come back out later. It was so easy to figure out it was not suspenseful. Even when it got down to the last four guys, I was surprised that they were the four guys. That they would pin the whole hopes of WrestleMania on the hopes of these four guys. One or two of them anyway. I didn't like the decision that Triple H, surprise, put the belt on himself again. It just seemed like he showed a real lack of imagination, if you ask me. I watched 3 hours of wrestling, and I got very little out of it. When it was all over, I thought that was the worst Royal Rumble I think I've ever watched. Maybe next to the one from a couple years ago. That was another lousy one. I just really had higher expectations. When I say all of my criticisms, I just want to be honest. I have a lot of respect for the talent. They do good stuff out there. It's how they are used. End quote, Bret Hart, WrestleZone Radio. I had been a little bit surprised by your reaction to this show. I think I chalked a lot of it up to the fact that you watched the whole show live, whereas I kind of tapped out somewhere around the women's match. Just had other stuff going on. So I went back and watched it the next morning, on with a fresh mind. And I thought it was burnout on your part. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I did think it was burnout with how negative you were about the Rumble match. But why don't you go first, and then I'll give the other side, at least the way I felt watching it the next morning.
Okay, here's what I'm saying about the Rumble match. You had a situation where the guy you've been pushing as top babyface for a year in Roman Reigns again got booed out of the building, number one. Now, I'm not suggesting that you don't go to WrestleMania with Hunter versus Roman Reigns at all. And I'm not even suggesting that Hunter shouldn't have put the belt on himself, because we know where that's going. My problem lies in you spent another hour on Sunday night trying to make Roman Reigns a star, and this audience, hardcore or not, refuses to accept Roman Reigns as your babyface, as acknowledged by the gigantic pop that Hunter got when he threw Roman out.
I think we may have gotten a email from our anonymous general manager, but yes. Go on with your thoughts. I'm listening.
No, and what you could have done, even with the eliminating of Roman, okay, at the end, you could have made a star by having the person that eliminated Roman not be Triple H. That point I make in regards to Roman Reigns. The other major point I had about the Rumble was I felt you could have done more to put some other people in the ring, whether they be from NXT or the legends that have supposedly been rumored for months to be coming in anyway. And they didn't do either of that.
There was all kinds of things I didn't like about it. I knew what I was going to get. I knew Roman Reigns, regardless of whatever reaction or whatever we say or whatever anyone says, other than Vince, that he is the guy. That's not going to change. I know people are waiting for the Lex Luger sweep the carpet out. That's not going to happen yet. That they're going through with the Roman Reigns winning the title at WrestleMania, confetti falling, which is crazy, but they're going to do it. That's what we're being set up. I don't understand why it was done the way it was in terms of that storyline and him winning the belt and then losing it and then winning it and losing it. It just seems like you've really watered down that moment when he finally does win it. You know,
Agreed.
How do you say, well, this is the big one. This is the real one. You know, it's just one of those things that I wouldn't have done all the hot shotting that they've done, but they probably didn't necessarily know where they were going with it. And it seems like the reason Hunter has the belt and that it's going to be the chase is because, again, they thought it would be better for Roman to chase than to be defending, which may be true. I don't know.
Well, I think that's true in any case when you have a babyface. That's just the way I look at it. If you're still trying to make Roman a babyface, which they're still trying to do, despite every crowd reaction to the contrary, it's always better to have a babyface chase because that's always proven to make money.
But I still really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was really cool, the beginning and the way that Rusev and Roman started. And then by the time number 3 came out, he'd already gotten rid of Rusev. You know, I guess the people in the audience were disappointed that they didn't show the Titantron for the intro and the I Am Phenomenal thing that sort of played itself out on the Titantron. But I still thought it was pretty sweet that you hear this music you have no idea what it is. You've never heard it before unless you actually know the real song, the DMX song.
And then the crowd pops.
And then you just see Roman's face as the crowd pops, you know, and then it shows AJ Styles. Now, at this point, we do need to talk about AJ. It had been pretty well rumored that he was supposed to be in the Rumble. We had maybe thought that they had changed their minds because it had become so public. I'm glad they didn't. And you have to realize that may have not been a surprise to you, but that was a surprise to a lot of people.
Oh, no, totally, and I agree.
So that is a big surprise.
And I'm not, at that point it was a surprise to me because at that point even you and I and Shan had all said, oh, he was supposed to be there but it's leaked so they're not going to do it. So him walking in at number 3 was still like, oh, damn, they did it. Cool.
Yeah, so he came out. JBL, probably my least favorite commentator in the game right now, and as inarticulate as he was, I still thought it was awesome that the very first thing he said was former IWGP champion, same as Lesnar.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought, oh, thank you, JBL. As much as, again, that was a pretty inarticulate way. It was like caveman and disjointed the way he said it. Right out of the gate, this guy's like, okay, big-time star.
Instant credibility.
Instant credibility. And then throughout the match, I would say that the 3 top, well, I guess Ambrose too, but I mean, for the first half of the match, I mean, it was all AJ, Roman, and Jericho. You know,
and that's fine.
And they were positioned as 3 big stars. Roman, of course, is the guy, but I mean, they had Jericho and AJ right there beside him. You hear the enthusiasm in the announcers, which you don't hear a lot anymore.
No.
But I think you can get a pretty good idea, at least from the night 1, night 2. SmackDown maybe is a different thing, but I mean, at the same time, it just seems like everything is positive regarding AJ and the way that he's being perceived in the company. And they're going all out regarding trying to treat him like a star and not talk about him. I never once heard the term internet darling or any of that bullshit. They were like international superstar, you know. Yeah. This guy, like they really did play it up like everybody knows who he is, and so do we. So that was cool. I did not expect that.
Here's the thing. I don't think you can do the things that WWE used to do with your audience even 2 or 3 years ago.
It's very out of character. We have to admit this, very out of character what we're seeing right now with him. And some others. I mean, it's not just AJ. You know, got Samoa Joe. That was kind of an interesting one that he came in under his name, but it was just NXT, and we all figured, it's just NXT. Austin Aries has just debuted in NXT as Austin Aries, but again, that's NXT. With AJ, I mean, it's a very unique situation, but maybe we should just wait until we sort of touch on Raw and SmackDown in a few minutes here, and we'll get through this match. The Roman stuff in the middle was absurd. Of course it was. It did nothing for him. The fact is, he didn't even get stretchered out. This was like the weirdest logic ever. Because they beat the shit out of him, they put him through a table, and they were going to stretcher him to the back, which was the right thing to do. Of course, they overthink the whole thing. They think, well, that will make him look weak, so we can't have him get stretchered to the back. He's got to get off the stretcher and walk to the back. Because he has to show how tough he is.
Which makes you wonder whether or not he was eliminated or not. If you turned away for half a second, and then you see Roman walking to the back, and you're like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, I didn't wonder that. What I wondered is why the hell is Roman walking to the back in the middle of the match?
Yeah, really.
You know? Because if you're walking to the back, you would think you would just be able to walk to the ring. But I guess they were saying, no, Roman, you absolutely must be checked out by a doctor before you go back in. So they had him out of the match for a whole part of the middle there.
Big chunk.
And it was just so bizarre. This was just not the way you get a babyface over. Because he walked to the back, and then he was gone for a long time. So it just made it look like he was just being a chicken shit.
Yeah, it looks stupid.
And he just wanted to wait a little bit before he came back. Yeah. And what happened when he came back? It was supposed to be the big, this guy's got balls of steel. You know, he's coming back. It was even more negative than when he left.
Yeah, that's right.
It was more negative than when he left.
Well, now the one thing that confused me until I saw it was that the commentators kept saying, the Royal Rumble has no disqualification. And that only really took effect when Brock Lesnar came out.
I had said on the show last week, keep Lesnar out there to the very end because he's your security blanket.
And they didn't do that.
And he is the guy that will keep the crowd hot and will stop them from turning on the match as long as there's hope that he can win. I thought they put him out way too early. With that said, it didn't end up being a disaster.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it easily could have been. I wouldn't have booked it that way. I wouldn't have taken that risk. But at the end of the day...
Here's the idea. Think about this. Brock and Roman were never in the ring at the same time, ever.
No, of course they're protecting that. They're protecting that match.
Well, no, but I'm saying they never, even just to be physically in the same place, it never happened.
And I'm sure it was by design. I guess what was so positive to me was that the roster was so great, and this is why I didn't think that they needed a bunch of old-timers as surprises this year, because it was a lot of fresh guys that weren't here last year. And when you look at the roster, there is a lot of strong talent, and I thought that the people that were sort of the building blocks of the company, the Owens, the Ambrose, all those guys, they had that moment to shine. AJ in there for 28 minutes. I thought that they made him into a pretty big star in night one.
They did. Kevin Owens limping to the ring and then getting in the ring and trying to fight like he's a badass.
Right. And I love the stuff with him and AJ, their brawl.
Oh my God, the crowd just went boom. Like they went to each other and the crowd just exploded.
Right. And you know what I will say though, like to make a criticism of that, and the way that AJ was handled. It was clear that this guy was going to be a player going forward. He wasn't just some guy. He debuted in his very first match, and he was there for 28 minutes. You could have gone even further with it. You could have had him eliminate more guys. And that was the one thing that I thought that was missing in the AJ Styles presentation. You should have had him eliminate more guys than two.
Okay, and I agree, but I think you did enough to do two things.
But no, do you hear what I'm saying? Hear what you just said? Yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but you said you did enough. And I'm saying, yes, they did enough, but they could have gone even further.
Yes,
So
I
that's
agree.
my take on that.
I agree.
And then Owens being the injured guy coming in saying, welcome to WWE and throwing him out. I mean, as much as I'm into that program, I thought that was a little bit strange in terms of the choice to eliminate AJ, but I do hear that he actually went to management and said, can I be the guy to eliminate him because I got an idea sort of thing. So
I think they're gonna work together and it's gonna be good.
I would guarantee they're going to work together. I just don't know if it's going to be at WrestleMania or not. Anyway, so the way that things went with Lesnar, he was out. It was I felt it was a little early, and that they took a risk. With that said, it did not backfire. The crowd did not turn on this match. Then comes Hunter, and
the crowd still doesn't turn on this
match. The crowd
match.
was into it. It was a pop. Let's be honest.
It was
Completely ridiculous in the way that this played out and the ending of this match. And this is a huge criticism from pretty much across the board. And people have every reason to criticize this finish. Hunter comes out looking more jacked than anybody in the ring.
agreed.
Not looking like the chicken shit boss, heel who's going to backdoor his way into a win. This guy comes out looking like Brock Lesnar. Comes up, throws out Roman Reigns clean.
Which bothers me on so many levels.
Right. You can say, well, no, but Roman got beat up earlier by League of Nations. Doesn't matter. He came back, he ran wild, he threw people out, and then Triple H just walks up behind him. So long, asshole. And then he goes and he squares off with Ambrose for the final two.
Well, it's interesting. I noticed they did a couple of tests during Triple H's little time in the ring there. There was one other test that I thought the reaction was very intriguing.
I thought they did a lot of tests, which is one of the reasons I like this Rumble a lot. But which one are you talking about?
The little stare down with Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, and Bray hit him, and he ended up turning on him, right?
Well, yeah, no, but Bray hit him. But just the crowd reaction to those two guys staring at each other.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now they know they can do something.
Yeah. I feel like Bray's got a big babyface run in him at some point.
I do too.
But right now they're short on heels, so it's not the best time for that. But then, okay, so you got Ambrose and H in the end. Ambrose, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I certainly have, and I'm sure some other people listening have as well. Ambrose has lost weight.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know if it's a change in diet. I don't know if he's hurt.
He looks really small.
He looks skinny. As much as he is a madman and a wild man and probably a real dangerous cat, he's left that part of his life behind him. He's left the streets behind, but he's still not a guy you'd want to mess with in that locker room. No. But, I mean, he's tiny. He looked emaciated at this pay-per-view.
Somebody needs to feed him.
And he's in there with a Triple H that we all know could not pass a piss test.
No.
And Triple H is morphing him. And the finish is nothing, no kind of screw job at all. Just Hunter out-muscles him, outsmarts him, dumps him out. So, I mean, the way that was handled for the guy that's supposed to be the big authority, you can't be the authority and the fucking ass kicker at the same time. The guy wants to be everything at once.
Yeah,
he wants to be Paul Heyman. He wants to be the biggest muscled up heel that overpowers the baby faces and, never has his comeuppance. And they really don't. Him and Stephanie are so much different than Vince in that way.
Vince would get beat up every now and again.
Well, Vince is not afraid to show ass. And he always does. But with Hunter and Steph, you never know that. Yeah, the finish was ridiculous. But for some reason, this Rumble worked for me. I think it was just the roster, the debut of AJ Styles, how the crowd reacted to the debut of AJ Styles, which is a whole other thing. Holy shit. Of course, it was Orlando. His stomping grounds. I mean, it's not like those people don't know who he is. They seem to tease a lot of things, set a few things up, which is what I wanted to see. Some good action, some good brawling. Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens.
How huge was his pop when he came out at 20?
All these guys that were involved this year that weren't last year.
They did the thing where the authority says, we'll announce the main event for Fastlane. The winner at Fastlane will face Triple H at Mania. What they did was they put Reigns and Ambrose and Lesnar in a triple threat match.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
It makes no fucking sense. They spent all this time screwing Roman Reigns, screwing him out of the title. They've done it a few times.
Yeah.
And the very next night after Hunter wins the title, their idea is let's put Roman Reigns in a match where if he wins, he can get the title shot. Yeah. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I know, it just makes sense.
What fucking story are we telling here? Why are you putting 3 baby faces in the match? If you're trying to control this title, and if this was what it was all about, was getting control of the title, bringing it to the dark side, Brock's a babyface. He's the top babyface in the company.
But he's not going to WrestleMania.
As champion?
As champion. No.
Or
as number 1 contender, no.
No. Listen, Ambrose is in the match to take the fall.
Yeah.
Ambrose is in the match to take the fall. That's why he's there. Because they don't want to beat Brock, and they don't want to beat Roman, and they want Roman to go forward. But here's another reason why this is, from not just a storyline perspective, both of those 2 guys, Ambrose and Lesnar, are way more over than Roman Reigns. And this is going to be Roman Reigns' big moment to win and to, go on to face Triple H at WrestleMania in the main event. So this is the big setup for him. Those 2 guys are going to get cheered way over Roman Reigns.
Well, but explain something to me then. Okay, Lesnar's not going to be in that mix at WrestleMania. He's not going to be wrestling for the title.
No.
He's likely barely going to be on TV between now and Fastlane anyway. Why is he in this match? Because everybody.
We're asking for logic in this thing?
Well, no, but I'm saying
in this piece of shit?
No, but why can't you just put Ambrose in against Roman and that's it?
Well, because I guess those 2 are friends. I think that the real story that's going to happen out of all this is there is going to be a turn coming. But it's not going to be Roman. It's going to be Ambrose. And the reason is because he's going to get pinned by Roman in this triple threat match.
Yep.
And, Lesnar's going to end up maybe giving him the F5, and then Roman's going to end up coming over and pinning him.
Because the Wyatts are going to jump all over Lesnar.
Sure. That's a good booking. You could do that and have that be the reason why Lesnar's not able to make the cover, because he gets jumped by the Wyatts.
Yep.
And then you have Roman, what do I do? What do I do? And then pins Dean Ambrose. Yep. And then you have Dean Ambrose be bitter about it. And you have Dean Ambrose get jealous about it. And then you can do a little bit of a slow burn there. Mega Powers, explode.
Yeah.
It's not going to be for WrestleMania, but it will be a good program for after WrestleMania. Maybe for SummerSlam.
Yeah. Well, although I think there'll be other issues at SummerSlam, but that's...
It really doesn't make any sense that the Intercontinental Champion is in the match. But with that said, he's the perfect fall guy. And if he's going to be the fall guy, and Roman is going to be the guy that wins, that means Roman's going to pin him, which means you're setting up a storyline. So there may be something kind of good that comes out of that. Ambrose is extremely talented, but it's a matter of, is he talented enough to actually turn the people against him, against Roman Reigns?
Yes, he is.
If anyone can do it, in terms of a rival,
I think he can cut the right promo.
I think so too. And I've always said that will be Roman's best program, is when Dean turns heel.
Yes.
AJ Styles makes his very first television appearance for the company, his first Raw appearance, takes on Chris Jericho. One of the things that's really interesting for me right now, what you're seeing with AJ, we put this guy on a pedestal. We know how great he is, how talented he is, the perfect wrestler. But at the same time, this guy is definitely a fish out of water right now. And that's kind of the fun of what you're going to see over the next few months, is AJ Styles didn't go through NXT. He didn't have time to get accustomed to how things are. He basically went from his indie bookings from ROH right on to Monday Night Raw.
Well, and here's the thing, and every guy, even back in the WCW days, talk about this. There is something called learning the WWE. It takes you 6 months. Right.
And also, too, like, for the people that have been watching him in New Japan, and they're like, I don't understand, I watch him there, and then I watch him on Raw, and it's like, he's nowhere near as good. Those guys had worked each other a lot. Okada, Tanahashi in particular, he had worked them a ton. They knew each other like the back of their hand. He's probably, not even really been around Chris Jericho, let alone been in the ring with him. This was his very first time being in the ring with him. And I think
Jericho said as much.
Did he? I haven't heard what Jericho said, but I heard
Jericho said he had never, prior to Sunday, he had never met AJ Styles.
Right. I didn't want to say that he hadn't met him. I wasn't sure, but okay, that's...
No, he wrote on Facebook. He had never met him, and he'd never worked with him.
Right.
So for them to get out of that Sunday and Monday what they did, for 2 guys that didn't know each other 36 hours before that...
Right.
Is pretty damn impressive.
And then you have a whole roster of those guys. I mean, he's working guys for the very first time. And a lot of he didn't have a house show even to, feel it out.
No.
So people may think I'm making excuses, but this is what it is. He is nervous right now. He is a fish out of water right now. He is stepping off the indies and out of New Japan straight onto Monday Night Raw without necessarily knowing all the ins and outs of what they want from him.
Well, let me put it to you like this. I think back, and I've heard it many times. Chris Jericho talked about when he jumped in 99. Go back and look at Chris Jericho's early stuff. Prior between August of 99 when he got there till about probably January, February of 2000. There's not a good wrestling match in the bunch.
And for that same reason.
Yep.
You don't know these guys. You don't know their timing. You haven't even felt each other out yet. And you're already on TV working a match. And with AJ, it must have been a whirlwind of a week for him. But I thought the match was good, really good. Like, I didn't think it was a bad match at all. Sure, there were moments in the match where it seemed like they were on different pages, but it comes down to everything I've said. We also can't rule out the fact that Jericho might have had a bit of rust because he's not wrestling a whole lot these days. He's put on a lot of weight. If anything, there were times with, the timing of the match where it felt like AJ was used to moving faster and he was kind of having to adapt to slowing down a little bit just because, again, Jericho is getting older and still a great wrestler, but I mean, he is getting older and he's
in his 40s
now. He's put on some weight. So anyways, I thought AJ came out of that, and the way that the announcers, that's the main thing. That's how you know what Vince is thinking. What are the announcers saying?
They put him over like he's the greatest thing in the world right now.
They put him over like a new superstar has landed in WWE, and holy shit, can you believe it? AJ Styles is here. Still referencing New Japan and IWGP on the air, and this happened on SmackDown as well.
I'm really surprised.
The match with Curtis Axel from SmackDown, it was... Again, it was the exact same thing. There were moments where they were on different pages. Again, I thought it was a good little TV match, a good little enhancement match for AJ, and he came out of that looking really strong. And the guy's talent is clearly evident. I mean, it's pretty hard to watch this guy and not catch on to the fact that he's a very special talent.
He absolutely is, and I'm so happy for him to be in the biggest company in the world. And to still be able to do everything that he's able to do.
But after seeing the promo that he did on Raw, he is very small. He is a very small wrestler.
Yes. In
WWE standards. So that's obviously something everybody's going to be a little bit nervous about. AJ, there's going to be work to do. As good as this guy is and as much as we put him on the pedestal, there's still more learning to do because he's never been in WWE. So just chill out, everybody.
By June, regardless of what he's doing for a program, he will at least have figured out WWE timing.
Sure. It won't take him that long. For me, it's actually been a joy to watch this, because this is going to be yet another evolution of AJ Styles. You're watching him in there in a situation where, it's a high-pressure situation, and of course there's going to be a learning curve, and there's going to be some things that need to get worked out. But week 1, circle it on the calendar. It's been very, very good and a very, very strong presentation of AJ Styles thus far. Almost a little scary, but
yeah, almost.
So far, so good. And, other things on Raw, The Rock came back. That was some pretty crazy shit that happened there with Lana and The Rock. Sexual harassment, I guess, would be the easiest way to sort of explain it.
Yeah, that would be the best way to explain it.
From the biggest hero, in the whole company, saying that she was flexible, and he had her up there and doing the mustache ride and all this crazy shit. It really is an awkward position, I'm sure, for Rusev. The Rock really was used as, the hired gun to come in there and really execute her persona, I guess you'd say.
They did a job.
They did a job and a half, yeah.
Yep. Well, and you were in Rock's hometown, quote unquote, so why not have him there?
Yeah. And he went off script. He talked about how good the weed was in Miami.
He was everywhere.
And he mentioned the name Hulk Hogan on the air because there was some people dressed up in the front row. But you know what? I mean, it was Rumble show was good. Raw was good. Had a pretty good rating for that show. Yes. Not in comparison to years previous, but I mean, for today's standard, it was a pretty good rating. And they brought The Rock back, and that did a good rating. AJ and Jericho had the 2-segment match, really gave a good spotlight to AJ. Do you feel like, from the post-match, that there's going to be a program with those two going forward?
There could be.
Because Jericho has nothing for WrestleMania, and one would assume he's going to be on that show.
Yes.
And
From everything I've
he's
read,
been pretty public about the fact that he doesn't even want to come back unless they got something for him. And AJ is this fresh opponent, and Jericho is a world-class worker, and he knows that AJ, he may have just met him, but he's very well aware who AJ Styles is. He even interviewed him on his podcast and stuff like that. So
they're fine.
I'm sure that that's kind of Jericho salivating at the mouth and being like, oh my God, somebody that I haven't worked with. We could tear it down at WrestleMania. So I don't.
Well, and that's likely what they're going to do.
Also, Jericho's kind of soft right now in terms of being over with the fans. I think this would actually be the perfect time for a heel turn. AJ's really over with the fans.
Yep.
So let's turn Jericho heel. Let's have him and maybe have him and AJ work another match and have AJ beat him again, and then have Jericho, do the handshake one more time, kick him in the balls, something like that. How does that sound?
That works for me.
And then we go forward with that, and that's AJ's first big program for WrestleMania.
That works.
I like it. It was announced over the last 48 hours that Shinsuke Nakamura will be making his debut for the WWE as a part of NXT going into WrestleMania weekend, the TakeOver show. This is a hell of a card that they have announced. But
my God,
he will be taking on, in his debut, Sami Zayn, who they're saying is actually, this will be his farewell to NXT.
Yep, so he's going up to the show.
Right, there was tapings. William Regal did announce it to the crowd, and I guess...
And there was a video.
They showed a video. We have a start date. His chances of success are very high in WWE. With that said, I think starting off briefly in NXT, little stopover in NXT, will be the best thing in terms of a transition. It also gives the WWE audience a little bit of education on who he is before he just shows up on the big show. And not just that, Asuka versus Bayley will be happening for the women's title.
Oh, yay.
So I predict a title change there, but I predict an incredible match, which everyone's going to win. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan will be getting their shot at the tag titles against the modern-day Brainbusters.
Yes, that'll be fun, too.
Dash and Wilder. So I feel like there's probably going to be 2 title changes there, maybe 3 when I tell you what the main event is. Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. There's a lot of talk right now that Samoa Joe, they had been flirting with the idea of debuting him on the main roster following WrestleMania. But now the fact that he's going in there with Finn Balor, the fact that he lost the last match clean and now is getting another shot tells you that maybe he will not be leaving quite so soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I would think so too. I wondered whether Finn or Joe will be going to the main roster. It looks like Finn is going to get there before Joe does.
Yeah, but I've heard nothing to the sort about Finn. It seems as though he's the guy they want to keep in NXT for right now to sort of be the face of it. He's going to be the top star of NXT and the branding of NXT going forward, and as it becomes more of a traveling, a touring brand and all that stuff. Everything I'm hearing is that Finn isn't going anywhere right now and that he's going to sort of be the face of NXT for the next little while anyways. So
interesting.
So there you go. But they had been flirting with the idea of Joe coming up. But if he wins the belt at TakeOver, I would assume that gets put off for a little while. And at least in NXT, they're protected. They're in their own little alternate universe where they can be built up and presented as stars. Whereas as soon as you're in that Rumble on that main roster, especially when you're not even a part of the main roster yet, I would be a little bit trepidatious about that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So NXT has a real kick-ass show coming up, I'll tell you that much.
I am very excited.
So let's just hope for the best. First stop, WrestleMania weekend, Sami Zayn, Nakamura. Sean, thank you very much for being here. What do you got planned for the weekend?
I think this weekend is a bit of a run around, get busy weekend, do some...
Get busy.
Not that kind of get busy. Okay. Don't know about that. But just kind of come down from the Rumble, get hyped up for what's coming, maybe some binge watching, maybe some history pieces coming into being toward WrestleMania time.
Watch Lucha Underground on Sunday.
Yes,
Tell
I'll
me
watch
what you
Lucha
think.
Underground for sure.
They're really able to get away with a lot of things that nobody else is, and it is a great television show. Forget wrestling. It's a great television show, and it'll keep you on the edge of your seat. You just got to give it a chance and sort of go into it with a little bit of context, and you'll be hooked. No question. You'll love it.
Yes, this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So Sean Cunningham will be back with WAR Weekly, and we will be getting, his opinion, picking his brain. What do you think of Lucha Underground? First time watching it here in Canada. So from myself, from Sean Cunningham, enjoy your weekend, everybody. Peace, love, and why don't you tell them the rest, my man?
Wrestling Audio Revolution.